Hello and welcome to the Badhumanist look at the Beastmaster Hunter. So today we're going to be talking about Beastmaster here in the BfA Beta. Again, that's the Battle for Azeroth Beta for WoW. So to give an outline of what we're going to be talking about today, I'm going to start with talking about the pets. Again, pets are coming in that's new here for Legion. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the different passives and abilities that Beastmaster have, kind of their base set that they have. We'll then look at the overall talents, how the talents affect the overall rotation and such, and then take a look at stats. I'm not going to be doing stat rankings. I'm not going to tell you what's the best stat or worst stat. I'm simply going to talk about how each stat affects the different spec, how it synergizes, if you will, with the rest of the spec. So first, again, like I mentioned, I'm going to talk about Pet. Beastmaster Pet is obviously still a very, very large part of your damage. In fact, I have it at around 70%, 75% of your overall damage. However, about 40% of that is passive pet damage. The rest you're actually involved in. So while the pet's doing the damage, you're at least somewhat involved in that equation to some extent. But again, it's still being attributed to your pet. So the way they've changed the pet system here is that the type of pet, so here I have a turtle, it is a specific type and you can't change it. So a turtle here is a tenacity pet. If I pull out a dog or a cat, it's going to be ferocity. Again, I pull out like a bird of prey, it's going to be cunning. So the differences now are simply the abilities you gain with them. So if you have a ferocity pet, you get Predator's Thirst, which again is you and your pet gain 10% leech. Primal Rage, Heroism. Tenacity, you get Endurance Training, you and your pet gain 10% increased maximum health. I know it says 12, it's a talent that I'll talk about later. And then Survival of the Fittest. 3-minute cooldown reduces all damage you and your pet take by 20% for 6 seconds. If you're cunning, you have pathfinding. You and your pet gain, again, 10% increased movement speed. Master's Call, your pet removes all root and movement impairing effects from itself and the target and grants immunity to such effects for 4 seconds on a 45-second cooldown. So again, the type of pet you have is primarily just going to affect whether it's one of these 3 types and therefore what extra abilities you get. Alright, now let's take a look here at our actual spells. So going for the passives first, so we have Wild Call. Now this is going to baseline be your auto shot crit strikes have a 20% chance to reach the cooldown of Dire Frenzy. The increased chance here is because of a talent that I'll talk about later. So again, 20% chance to reach the cooldown of Dire Frenzy, and again that's on auto shot crits. Your mastery is simply just increasing the damage done by your pets by X%. I'll talk about how this interacts with certain kind of abilities and talents later on. You have Kindred Spirits, that increases you and your pet's maximum focus by 20. So again, you and your pet both have 120 focus. Exotic Beasts, again, allows you to train, or tame, I should say, exotic beasts. And then Beast Cleave, so after you multi-shot, your pet's melee attacks also strike all the nearby enemies for 75% as much. So moving on, we have Tar Trap still, 30-second cooldown, reduced movement speed of 50%, 8-yard radius for the pool, lasts for a minute. This again is your pet ability, so because I have the turtle out, I get Survival of the Fittest. Pet utility still all here. Multi-shot, again, still here. Misdirection, still here. We don't know whether or not this is channeling you and your pet's threat or just your threat like it was in Legion. Again, I haven't been in a raid environment to actually test this or a dungeon environment to test this. But again, if it doesn't, that's going to be a problem because, again, you're not going to generate a lot of threat. Kill Command, again, it's the main bread and butter here. 30 focus, it is a cooldown that is reduced by haste, gives the command to kill, causing your pet to deal X physical damage to the enemy. Intimidation still here, command your pet to intimidate, stunning it for 5 seconds. 100-minute cooldown. Freezing Trap, again, same as before. Flare, same as before. Feigning Death, same as before. Acceleration, can heal you for 30% and your pet for 100%, 2-minute cooldown. Eagle Eye, still the same. Disengage, leap backward on 20-second cooldown. Counter Shot, still here, interrupt spell casting for 3 seconds, 24-second cooldown. Successor Shot, same as before, 5-second cooldown. 50% movement for 6 seconds, it's actually relatively strong. Cobra Shot is going to be another focus spender here. It's 35 focus, it's a quick shot, again instant, deals physical damage. And reduces the cooldown of Kill Command by 1 second. So this is now baked in. Okay, this used to be something that was part of, I believe, a legendary. It is now baked into Cobra Shot. Call Pets, still all here. You can see the pets they give you. Bestial Wrath, your main cooldown. It's 1.5-minute cooldown. sends you and your pet into a rage, increasing all damage you both deal by 25% for 15 seconds. Again, I'll talk about how this interacts with some talents and abilities as well. It affects all your base kit, and then I'll talk about how it affects your talents later on. Now, key thing here, it says Beast of Wrath remaining cooldown is reduced by 12 seconds each time you use Dire Frenzy. That's false. It's actually going to be based off Barbershot. So anything that talked about Dire Frenzy or anything that dealt with Dire Frenzy is now talking about Barbershot. And again, this does work with Barbershot. So that's a tooltip typo. It's not Dire Frenzy, it is Barbershot, and that is working on the beta right now. Speaking of Barbershot, so Barbershot fires a shot that tears through your enemy, causing them to bleed for a very small amount of damage, but the more important thing is it sends your pet into a frenzy, increasing attack speed by 30%, stacking up to 3 times. Now, I've done some pretty extensive testing with this ability. It has 2 charges built in baseline. It's, again, reduced by haste recharge, and the focus generation part. So again, it generates 20 focus over 8 seconds. Each Barbershot gives a separate application here. So I'll see if I can't show that for you here. So again, you can see my buffs right below my character. And if I go and I start hitting this target here, and I hit it with multiple Dire Frenzies, you can see that there are 3 that show up. Each one is generating 20 focus. Now, over here, you can actually see the Dire Frenzy buff. Now, that does not have separate applications. So this is one where you're going to want to be holding on to Dire Frenzy and then refreshing it at the last second, so that, again, you kind of get that uptime on the buff for your pet. Again, my pet just died because the tanking one, but you can see how that works. Let's get out of combat there. There we go. Alright, so moving along, let me res my pet while I'm doing this. So next one here, again, is Aspect of the Wild. Another cooldown you have, 2-minute cooldown. It grants you and your pet 5 focus per second and a 10% increased crit chance for 20 seconds. Now, this lasts a pretty decent time, 20 seconds. And not only is it giving you and your pet focus, so again, that does allow your pet to use its main ability more, as well as, of course, you to use your abilities more often. Focus is something that you like some regen of in BM. And increased crit is really going to, again, I'll talk about this more in the stats, but it's really going to lead to that wild call, which is going to be very important for your uptime on Dire Frenzy. Aspect Turtle still here. It can have a talent that reduced its cooldown. Same as before. Cheetah, same thing. And that is our abilities. Okay. So this is your base kit, right? Your base kit here is Kill Command, Cobra Shot, Barb Shot, Multi-Shot, with your Bestial Wrath and Aspect of the Wild. They are both on the GCD, it should mention. I've been having a bit of a lag here, but in general, I haven't found it to be too clunky. One thing I would mention, however, is if you have to choose to pick one before the other, you're better off hitting Aspect of the Wild first than hitting Bestial Wrath and then this, because you really want to get as many attacks out as you can in that Bestial Wrath window, and so you don't really want to waste that GCD on Aspect of the Wild. Aspect of the Wild is a okay cooldown, but it's not a super strong one, so if you have to kind of hold off a little bit to make sure you get that 15-second window, that's fine. It should also be noted that Aspect of the Wild would want to be hit when you're relatively lower on focus, because again, it's giving you extra focus regen, as well as it's giving you that reset to kind of keep your stacks up with the Dire Frenzy through Barb Shot. But as you can see, it's not a lot. The joke of the 3-button BM spec for single target is still here. There's literally only 3 abilities, right? You have Kill Command, you have Cobra Shot, you have Barb Shot, you have Multi-Shot, but again, for single target, you're not going to be using that. So that's really it. So hopefully, we would hope, right, that talents might help us out here. Maybe we can gain some talents that help the playstyle here. So first row, 15 row here, you have Killer Instinct, Animal Companion, and Dire Beast. Now I'm going to switch over my talent here to Dire Beast. Alright, so Dire Beast. This was a mainstay of Legion BM. Let's look at it now. So now, cost 25 focus, it's a 15-second cooldown, summons a powerful wild beast to attack your target for 8 seconds. That's it. There's really no other synergy. Again, I'll talk about Stomp synergy here in a little bit, but that might actually be a bug. But that's really it. it's very minimal damage. So again, we're talking about damage that is about equal to a Cobra Shot. So again, hitting this does about the type of damage that a Cobra Shot would do. So again, it's very, very minimal damage. It's kind of lackluster, right? There's not a lot of interaction anymore with Dire Beast, because before you had Dire Beast or Dire Frenzy. Now it's kind of its own thing. These beasts do get buffed by your Bestial Wrath. These beasts do get buffed by... they do not get buffed by Mastery, however, but they do get buffed by things like Bestial Wrath. So keep that in mind. The next talent we have here is Animal Companion. Now this is not yet implemented. Basically it's going to allow you to have a hottie, but it's your own pet. And it only will do kill command. Now, because I can't really test this, it's not really working right now. I don't know how competitive this is going to be. But it could be very good. It could actually be very good, especially if you don't need the killer instincts we'll talk about here in a second. So having that pet, kill command does a good portion of your overall damage. And so this is definitely a case where... this might be a very good talent for sustained damage throughout. Again, doesn't really add any buttons for you to hit. It's, again, one of those things where it's kind of passive. Dire Beast is the only button on this row, and I just feel it's lackluster. If the pet did more damage, if the cooldown was reduced by haste like Barb Shot was, that might be helpful. But right now, it's just 8 seconds, 15-second cooldown, and it has no interaction with anything other than Bestial Wrath. And even with Bestial Wrath, it's a very weak talent. Alright, now looking here again at our other choice, so Killer Instincts, the other option here. Kill Command deals 50% increased damage against enemies below 35% health, so you execute. Kill Command is a large part of your overall damage here, and so yeah, this is definitely one of those things that is going to be quite nice to have. Third row, so we have Dire Stable. So Dire Frenzy generates 8 additional focus over duration. It should be noted right now, if you take Dire Beast, this will then read Dire Beast. That's false. Even with this talent and Dire Beast does not give you extra focus. The extra focus is always on Barb Shot. Now again, it says Dire Frenzy. What they mean is Barb Shot. Again, it's the buff that is giving you the additional focus, but again, it's Barb Shot that's the ability. So again, it's a bit of a confusing tooltip error there. This is an okay talent. The extra focus is fine, but again, because you're not really stacking Barb Shot, you're really kind of waiting for one to get close to falling off to refresh it to again keep that buff portion up, even though any overlap will enable you to get a bit more focus back over that period of time. Again, I haven't found that you really would use the extra focus, and more importantly is it competes with one with the pack. The other ability in this row is Chimera Shot. So again, we've had this in the past. Now, Chimera Shot is actually a pretty decent, even single target talent. It's very competitive when you can hit 2 targets, but even on a single one, it's very useful. It does give you focus back. Its cooldown is reduced by haste. It would be great if this ability was something we could actually use. I'll talk about that more at the end of the video, but again, it's competitive. It does decent damage, but it competes with this, and this really is the best talent in the row. So this increases a flat 20%. So again, the baseline is 20% for Wild Call, and this makes it 40%. So again, it's not increasing it to 24 or whatever. That would be a 20% on that. It's literally adding 20% increased chance. So instead of having a 20% on your crits, your auto shot crits, you now have 40%. This is very valuable. Without this, it's almost impossible to keep up 3 stacks of Dire Frenzy, and I was having about a 97% uptime on my Dire Frenzy through Barb Shot with One with the Pack. It would fall off every once in a while, and I believe that again with stat scaling, it might be able to be kept up 100% of the time. And it's really the only engaging part of the whole spec. I'll be completely honest with you. So yeah, this almost should be made baseline, it seems, because it's just too strong, or again, put it on a different row to make it compete with more things. But it's really, really strong, and really, I don't think the spec works well without it. 45 row is again a utility row. You have Camouflage, back, and for BM you have Natural Mending, which I believe will be the rating talent. Again, every 30 focus you spend reduces the cooldown of acceleration in your heal by 1 second. You have Trailblazer, which is your movement speed is increased by 30% anytime you have not attacked for 3 seconds. Good for leveling, good for again in between boss fights and such, but I believe natural mending will be the go-to in most situations. You do spend a good bit of focus, so therefore you are going to get some good reduction here on this 2-minute cooldown. 60 row. Now I'll be completely honest with you. This is a good row that Sims are going to tell us what's best. I have no idea. I can just tell you how they play. So you still have Murder for Crows. Again, 30 focus, 1-minute cooldown, Flock of Birds does a lot of damage. Now this scales with Mastery. This scales with, of course, Crit, and it also scales with Bestial Wrath. So all those things do affect this ability. Okay, so all those things do scale with it. They basically get counted like a pet would in this situation here. So that's great. Again, does good damage. When it cooldown, gives you an extra button, which is nice. Throw of the Hunt. So Barb Shot increases your critical strike chance by 3% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. This basically follows the same thing as the Dire Frenzy buff. So again, it gets refreshed whenever you hit it. So what this does is not only now is your pet gaining that increased attack speed, but you gain crit stacking up to 9%. Remember, crit chance is what affects the increase for Wild Call. So the more crit you have, the more Barb Shot procs resets you have, the easier it is to keep that up. So it's one of those interesting things where Throw of the Hunt is basically going to help you keep up your Dire Frenzy stacks. Again, it's good. It's very competitive. I found the 3 of these to have pretty much equal damage across. Again, very, very rough testing I've done here. So again, this by no means is 100% accurate. This is a great example where the Sims will probably tell us what's best. Venomous Bite. So Cobra Shot reduces the cooldown Beast of Wrath. I have a feeling this will probably be the weakest one. I could be wrong, of course, but that's just my hunch right now. This basically gives you more Cobra Shot synergy. Now it will also reduce the cooldown Beast of Wrath. Now it should be noted that I already have about and I can even pull it up here, I already have about if you see here, 50% uptime on Beast of Wrath. So my range was anywhere between 45 to 50% of Beast of Wrath without that talent. With the talent, it didn't really change much. Again, I'm sure you could actually, if you min-maxed it, get a little bit higher, but not by much. Again, you're Cobra Shotting somewhat frequently, but again, it's one of those things where because of the huge cooldown reduction that Barb Shot gives, again, remember, it's 12 seconds each time you use it, and it's only a 1.5-minute cooldown, adding that a little bit extra doesn't really do much. So again, you already have high uptime. I didn't see enough increase of an uptime to compete with either of these other 2 talents. But again, I could be wrong. This could actually be amazing. Who knows? Born to be Wild. Post-haste, Binding Shot. Again, another kind of utility row. Born to be Wild is what I would probably choose. Just reduces the cooldown of Cheetah and Turtle. You love those defensives. Post-haste, again, removes the snare with Disengage. Binding Shot is, again, great for rooting. I'll be completely honest. The 90 row, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to be best here. They're all interesting. They're all somewhat engaging. I have a feeling that Barrage is going to be out of place unless it's a pure AoE situation. But we'll start with Stampede. Stampede is Stampede. Again, I think it has more of a shot because it's competing against these other 2 talents. Like, it seems like, okay, maybe. The problem is that single target, it does less damage than Stomp does overall. Its DPS is less than what Stomp would be currently with our current scaling. But again, it's the same as it was before. So again, I'll take it and show you here. Again, it's the same line as we saw before. All right. So let's take a look here. Let's pick this up. So again, you have to have your target in line here. Now, don't look at the damages because this is the morale booster, so don't worry about the damage marks here. But there you go. That's it. It's just a bunch of pets in a line charging at your target. And that's pretty much it. So Barrage, again, has been somewhat redesigned here. So again, if you take... Oh, I gotta go for cooldown, that's right. So yeah, Barrage is one of those things where it's the same as it was before. It's a lot more controlled now. It's much more tightly packed. It still can pull targets you don't want to pull. Its damage is good. The thing that I think is going to be its Achilles heel for Beast Mastery is 60 focus cost. That's a lot, and you don't really have that focus to spare. Again, if you think about it, 60 focus is the same cost as 2 kill commands. And 2 kill commands is going to do more damage single target than this would, and it will actually do pretty competitive damage on something like 2 targets. It's not until you get to 3 and above targets that Barrage is going to have its place. So again, AoE wise, this might be the best talent, honestly, depending especially if they're more spread, because again, both Stampede and Stomp are more for when they're all grouped together one little area here. But yeah, so Barrage is Barrage. When the cooldown comes off, I might show you that. Stomp is what it says. So when you cast Dire Frenzy, again, they mean Barb Shot. Your pet stomps the ground, dealing X physical damage to all nearby enemies. It's not a lot of damage. It does scale, of course, with multi-targets, but it's not a lot. But even single target, it's better than the 3-minute cooldown Stampede for the amount of damage that it does. It should be noted that currently when you take Dire Beast, your Dire Beasts stomp the ground as well. So again, that might be a synergy thing that they keep. We don't know. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Even with that being true, I don't know if that's going to actually be worthwhile. Again, it should also be noted that we're not quite sure whether or not your Animal Companion will stomp or not. It looks like probably not, but again, I can't test that yet. So we'll have to wait and see. Now for the 100 row. So you have Spitting Cobra. This is a survival ability that's been moved over to BM. Summons a Spitting Cobra for 20 seconds that attacks your target for X damage over every 2 seconds, and while the Cobra is active, you gain 2 focus every second. It's a 1.5 minute cooldown. A couple issues with this ability. One is it's I can actually even show you here. It only has like a 25-yard range, so if you use it from too far away, it will just kind of like stand there. So I'll see if I can't show that for you here. So if I were to go and start attacking the target, yeah, it just sits there. Like, hi, hello, how are you doing? So yeah, that's an issue. Also, they need to fix that. It needs to be able to have a 40-yard range. But when it's in range, it does do damage. It gives you focus. The damage is pitiful. It's the lowest damage in your entire damage meter. Killer Cobra, again, here is next. Bestial Wrath is active. Cobra Shot resets the cooldown on kill command. So this sounds good, right? You want more kill commands, that's great. Cobra Shot resets it. Here's the problem. As I mentioned, I'm already at a 6-second cooldown on kill command. And remember, Cobra Shot already reduces it by 1 second. So you just add in the GCDs plus the time reduction, about 2 Cobra Shots, and your kill command comes back up. So you would have to have it reset on the first one to even really gain any benefit from it. So because that's the fact, and because you don't have the focus regen normally to be able to kind of kill command all the time, I don't think this is going to actually be your best talent to go with. I do believe that Asking of the Beast will be for 2 reasons. One, it increases the damage of your pet's ability by 30%. Very, very, very strong. Your pets are still your number 1, number 2 damage. Again, I can even show you here in my details log. Let me find the actual correct one here. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So if you can see here, your number 1 damage ability here is melee from the dog. Number 2 was bite from the dog. And number 3 was kill command from the dog. So again, increasing this damage, the melee and the bite damage, both of which are increased by Asking of the Beast, really, really helps. Right? Again, I found that it was something in the order about 25% increase in damage of these 2 abilities. Again, I should note it doesn't actually scale with melee, just the bite ability. But if you look, bite is the bigger portion, right? Bite's doing far more of the damage per hit than, again, the melee. Bite does have a 3-second cooldown, it should be noted. So yeah, very strong. But here's the other thing. It increases the effectiveness of your pet's Predator Thirst, Endurance Training, and Pathfinder passes by 50%. So again, it makes those things stronger. It gives you more stamina, gives you more leech, gives you more movement speed. So again, that's very, very valuable even in a raiding situation here. So again, that's definitely a very good thing. Alright, so I can go ahead and show you Barrage now. And there it is. So again, you can see it's kind of all in that range. It will hit multiple targets, of course. If there are multiple targets, I'll go and try to find that for you here. They're on the other side. But yeah, so that's your talent layout. So in my best estimation at this point in time, and here you can see it hit all those targets. Lovely. I would really say that more than likely the 90 rows up to grabs. I think Barrage will not be taken if you're just thinking about single target or even 2 target. I do think that something like Stomp or Stampede. We'll have to wait and see on scaling. Will end up being your better option. But as for the Beast, I think it's going to be your go-to. Again, this is whoever you choose. The 60 row is anything, but here's the thing. Murder of Crows is the only thing that adds another button, and it's only a button every minute. Right? Throw of the Hunt adds a layer to that Barb Shot upkeep, which, again, is a nice added thing. Venomous Bite doesn't. It just gives you Beast of Wrath more often, which is nice, but again, it doesn't add another button. 45 row, same thing. 15 row, again, Dire Beast would be another button to hit on a somewhat regular interval, but again, its damage is super low and it has no synergy. It doesn't really interact well with other things. Killer Instinct, I think, is going to be very powerful, and I think, again, having that extra kill command, if it does scale properly with your damage, again, as I pointed out before, could be very, very, very strong. Again, as you can see here, kill command was a large portion of my overall damage. So again, I think something like this will end up being your kind of your layout here, and I'm going to try to go here and show a bit of the rotation now. So again, this is by no means going to be perfect. Again, this is just what I think is going to be what you're going to be doing. So again, you're probably going to start off with the Beast of Wrath, follow that up by a kill command, of course, get a couple of Cobras in to get your focus down, get that Dire Frenzy going. You can now use Wild Call after you can kind of get a little low. Anytime you get 2 stacks of the Dire Frenzy, you want to hit it again. If you look at that weak aura I have, whenever it gets to about 3 seconds is when I'm going to want to be kind of hitting that extra ability, so I'm storing a charge unless I get 2. If I ever get down to that point, you just refresh it. Again, you want to keep up that buff at all times. That's not only giving me focus back, it's giving my pet that nice movement speed, but also giving me extra crit. Okay, Beast of Wrath is back off again. So again, you can see Beast of Wrath has pretty good uptime, and I'm not doing it perfect by any stretch. Let Dire Frenzy drop fall off there for a little bit. But this is basically it. You have 3 buttons, and the only real engaging playstyle, I think, is again keeping up those Dire Frenzy stacks, which again is a little bit micro game. It's only 8 seconds you have. Now, this might be made kind of menial if we end up with more crit or more haste, and I'll talk about that when we talk about the stat scaling stuff later on. But again, spec feels fine, just it needs another button. I would love if Chimera Shot was another option. It could definitely use the focus, and yeah, I just think that it would be a nice little addition here to have something else to be hitting on a somewhat regular interval that feels good. It would also give some nice extra cleave, but again, I'll be talking a bit more about that here in a little bit. So let's go ahead and leave combat there. Again, don't worry about my damage here. You can see the kind of like rotation on the left. And again, you don't have a lot of abilities, right? You're barb shotting when that gets low, or again, you have 2 stacks. You are Cobra shotting to kind of dump your focus. You're kill commanding. And that's really it, right? Your focus regen is all passive. It's not like a big chunk like you see with survival or with the other abilities where you hit an ability and you get some focus back. It's just passive. It's just 20 focus over 8 seconds. It's kind of passively getting regained. And then, of course, you're spending it with Kill Command and Cobra Shot. Now, again, the damage is very good. We'll have no idea about how it compares to other specs. But, yeah, the damage seems to be in line with what I've been seeing with the other specs. So that's that. All right. Now let's talk a bit about stats. So, stat-wise, crit. Well, crit's synergy obviously is with Wild Call. So, again, Wild Call is going to give you those resets, right? It's going to give you those free extra charges of Barb Shot to kind of keep up that Dire Frenzy if you have the crit talent that as well. So again, there's definitely some synergy there with crit. Haste. Now, BM does have a good number of abilities that are reduced by haste. So again, Barb Shot has the recharge being reduced by haste. Again, if you took Chimera Shot, that would be reduced by haste as well. So again, you have a number of abilities here that are going to be reduced, and again, it lasts for 8 seconds. So hypothetically speaking, if you can get enough haste to get that recharge down close to that 8-second range, it's going to help that uptime of Dire Frenzy. And this is what I mean by it might get to the point with enough haste that it's a menial thing, right? It's not hard to keep up anymore. Right now, I have to kind of like plan it out. I have to think about it. It might become easy. So we'll have to wait and see on that. So again, both crit and haste increase the uptime of this. Again, crit does it by giving you more procs. Haste does it by simply reducing the recharge time, and again, helping that out. It should also be noted that haste is going to increase your auto shot timers, right? So again, how quickly you're shooting your shots is going to be reduced by haste. And again, it's those auto shot crits that give you the procs. So again, haste and crit both have really good synergy there. Versatility is versatility. Again, it scales with everything. Mastery. Okay, so here are the things that all scale from mastery. Of course, your pet does. We know that the animal companion pet will as well. Dire Beast scales with mastery. Let's see what else. Spitting Cobra does not scale with mastery. So again, that is a separate thing. So that does not scale with the mastery. Murder for Crows, it looks like it does scale with mastery. Again, we'll have to kind of double check on that, but it looks like it does scale with mastery. So again, mastery is going to help increase your damage. Again, your pets are still the majority of your damage here, as you can see again, pulling this up. Again, if you add together all the things that are attributed to the turtle, so again, here we have melee, bite, kill command are all in the turtle. Now, the barb shot turtle portion I think is interesting because it seems that it's attributing some of the increased attack speed damage to barb shot, but again, putting it on the turtle. You have the dot portion, which as you can see is not a lot of damage, but if you include this, and again, in my case, if you include the stomp for your turtle as well, it makes up about 75% of your damage. So about 3/4 of your damage is coming from the pet. But it should be noted that kill command and barb shot, you are at least hitting. So at least you're in control of that, right? You feel like you're engaged to a part. So if you leave those out, it's about 40% of your damage will be the melee and the bite damage. Again, if you include the stomp as well. So again, it's a decent percentage, but again, it's still super, super heavy, and it just feels as if you feel weak, right? You feel as if you're depending on your pet, and if pet has bad AI, if there's fights that are just not pet friendly, we can maybe see a problem there. Again, it's another reason why I might like Chimera Shot to come back. So those are the stats, those are the stat synergies. Again, I have no idea what's going to be the overall ranking. Crit and Haste obviously both have very good synergy with the Dire Frenzy upkeep, which again is very important. The more your pet hits, the more damage you're doing, which is of course great. Mastery, again, of course, helps as well, because a good portion of your damage of that is probably going to depend on the stat scaling of these things. But yeah, so Beastmaster Hunter feels fine. Kind of, again, giving a summary here of our thoughts. It feels fine. It needs more buttons, period. Beastmaster needs more buttons. It's not okay that I only have 3 buttons to hit in a single target rotation. And again, even in a multi-target, you're going to just hit multi-shot once every 4 seconds or 5 seconds to get Beast Cleave, and that's it. You're going to have the same rotation with that. Now, like I mentioned, looking at talents here, Barrage might be something you end up taking in AoE, so then that'd be 1 extra button you would hit. It could be true that we take Murder for Crows, and that would be another ability to hit, but again, it's only every minute. It's not something that's really engaging. Dire Beast and Chimera Shot felt engaging. It felt like, okay, something else to do. They just don't have the impact right now. So my suggestions that I want to kind of put forth that I think might be good if Blizzard were to listen would be do away with the pack. Either make it baseline or, again, move it somewhere else where it's competing with something else. I think Killer Cobra is a great example of something to go. Spitting Cobra could maybe just get buffed a bit, both in either the focus or the damage parts of it. Again, its range needs to be fixed as well. But take that away so that Chimera Shot has a shot. I think that if Chimera Shot was a talent, that would be a good single target talent. So again, for example, maybe put it here in the Stomp row, right? Maybe either get rid of Barrage, get rid of Stomp, or something, and move Chimera Shot to this row to compete with one of these talents. I think it'd be great because it would definitely be the best single target talent to take, and it has some multi-target cleave possibilities as well. But again, with one with the pack, that goes away. Even moving Chimera Shot up to row 1, right, would be a very valuable thing. I just want another ability. I want Chimera Shot to be something. I want Dire Beast to be something that you actually feel meaningful hitting, right? I just don't feel much engagement besides the Dire Frenzy upkeep with Barb Shot, which again might become a very easy thing to do with the right amount of haste and crit. Beyond that, there's no other talents that really I think are very engaging. Everything else is just a cooldown you hit every once in a while. It kind of happens passively. Spitting Cobra passively happens. Right, Stomped passively happens. So again, I wish there's a bit more engagement. It's definitely a DPS currently competitive spec. Again, that means nothing right now. It's just beta. But when you compare it to Marksman, when you compare it to Survival, it's not nearly as engaging of a playstyle. It doesn't feel as fun. It just needs more things to manage. It needs more things to keep up. Beast of Wrath is great. It's up a lot of the time. After the Wild at least feels a little bit better than it did before. At least it feels like, okay, I'm feeling more procs. I'm feeling more engagement. I get more focused. I use more abilities. But again, I need more than 5 abilities, right? Like, I like having a clean bar, but not that clean. So those are my thoughts on BM. If you have any comments or you have any thoughts of your own about BM, make sure you leave them down there in the comments below. If you like this video, please go ahead and like it. Feel free to subscribe. I plan to get a number of videos out on the BfA Beta. I'm going to have a mixture of class videos as well as my thoughts on general topics. So again, if you have any ideas for future topics you want me to talk about or want my opinion on, feel free to leave those again down there in the comments. It's been a pleasure, and again, hope to see you in the next one.